Hello.
Hello.
A very warm welcome to all of you joining us today to the Linda Martin Results Out of the Fog webinar. We see that we've got a wonderful cross-section of attendees from Canada and the USA, with CEOs and presidents from such industries as real estate, construction, IT, education, and professional services, to name a few. We look forward to an interactive 45-minute to share the top 5 strategies to re-engage your teams post-COVID. In addition to Linda Martin, I'm Michael Coogan, VP of US Sales out of our Phoenix office. Please know that this webinar is being recorded and will be made available to you. With housekeeping now established, I'd like to introduce Linda Martin from LMR.
Thank you so much, Michael, and a big warm welcome to everyone to Out of the Fog. We're going to talk today about the top 5 strategies to re-engage your team post-COVID. So I'm speaking to you today from Toronto, still in my home office, where I jokingly say we are experts on being in the fog, having went through the longest lockdown of any city in the world. Can you believe 360 days, in fact? I mean, this has been a year like no other. Such an impact on how we live, how we work, and it's our first shared global experience. So before I get started, I did want to get some interaction going here. So my question to all of you to start this off is this: what was the impact that you had personally as a result of COVID over the last 16 months? Please put that in the chat box now. For me, the impact has been, oh my gosh, I've missed people terribly. Being used to having so many live interactions with so many people and then forced into one kind of communication. You know, it's really had an impact on my energy, being an extrovert, because I take energy from others. So please put it in the chat box, and I want to come back to you in a couple minutes and go through some of your responses. One thing though, I know for sure, is that regardless of our individual impacts, our perception of the future has been altered during the pandemic. You know, they say in good times that we enjoy things, and in choppy waters we learn. And I think we've all learned that moving forward, this is not business as usual. This pandemic has shown us both the depth and speed of change possible in the modern world. We now all have to lead in a perpetual state of change, uncertainty, and actually have teams face the unknown. You know, most companies are asking today, so you're not alone, well, how do we do that? How do we prepare our teams for the perpetual unknown? So first of all, I want to share with you the research and learnings today about the impact that the pandemic has had on work teams. You know, it's been such a year of massive transition. And I'm going to take you through some slides on what I see as the top 5 themes of how the pandemic has impacted work teams. And this is coming from my work with Forbes, Harvard Business Review, and the Global Team Coaching Institute. But before I do that, Michael, back to you. Just give me a sense of where some of the themes are in the chat box that you're seeing in terms of the impact on those on the call today.
Sure, there's several on here. Chris mentions that loss of spontaneous joint brainstorming and problem solving. Bob in Fremont says more drinking and eating. And there's a couple references to being fatigued and sick and tired of it all.
Fantastic. And just want to go back to that first comment. Yes, we're going to get into that a lot more as the fatigue, not the overeating and drinking, no, but thank you so much. Great to hear everybody's responses. So I'm going to start off with my first theme, and it was pegged right on the chat box that the first theme is fatigue. Teams are tired. You know, more than 90% of our time over the past year has been spent working. Surprise, surprise. We have lost boundaries between work and personal life. And people have been feeling like they're in a blur, a fogginess. That's why we called this seminar Out of the Fog, right? People have just kind of worked, ate, slept, repeat. I mean, the good news is that productivity has generally been up across the board, but despite that, the and the fact that people are tired, we are masking a very important trend, is that people are tired of monotony. And despite the gradual reopening we're seeing post-pandemic, we still have an exhausted workforce. Right now, people want anything else but more work. My second theme, and again, just to get us all on the same page, and this may be a shocker if you've not seen this before, but 80% of people working today, and of course, some of these will be on your team, 80% are not engaged. So what that means is 1 in 5 people working today do not feel connected to their work. And that leaves them rather uninspired. And even if I were to ask you lately, how often have friends and colleagues said, oh my gosh, I'm working on this amazing project, I love my work? The answer is generally not. I mean, the elephant in the room is this: we are experiencing poor engagement. And this data is from Gallup, the world's global pollster. I mean, I personally believe that this is one of the biggest issues of our time. How can we have people working on our businesses and spending an entire day on something they're not engaged on? You know, some people say to me, well, Linda, productivity's up. Isn't that good enough? Well, no. And the reason I want to talk a little bit about this today is that the biggest predictor of profitability is engagement. And when you have engagement, it's basically the insurance policy on the success of your business. So you want to maximize this. In addition, let's not forget that engagement retains your staff and your team. Believe it or not, and you may have heard this before, but just shy of 50% of people are seriously considering leaving their current jobs. They want to make a major job pivot when the pandemic stabilizes. And we see that over the past year, a massive reevaluation of work and life has occurred. People are questioning, is this the right place for me? In addition, they're experiencing pent-up demand just to try anything new. But as business leaders, we all know when people leave, it is costly and disruptive. So the question that we're going to answer today is, amidst this challenging pandemic, how do you re-engage your team? Theme number 3, let's address the issue as you being the leader. I know you're experiencing frustration as well. You've weathered one of the most challenging aspects of your career: disruption, change, leading through the unknown, and most likely it has caught up with you. The fact remains that your job has never been easy, and the pandemic has made it that much harder. The number one challenge of high-growth CEOs is managing teams of people. When you think about it, you got to manage different personalities, their interrelationships, their unique needs, different agendas. And of course, during pandemic, you've been part psychologist, part friend, boss, of course, and it has had its challenges. But the need for strong internal teams, customer and supplier teams, has risen. More work today is now being done in teams than it ever has before. Today in management circles, this is all we talk about, is the health of your business is now directly tied to the effectiveness of your many teams. Theme 4, in the past year, our work has become much more task-oriented. So despite collaboration tools like what we're on today, Zoom, Microsoft Teaming as well, despite that, we've still become more task-oriented and less innovative. Why? We spend way less time networking, less time socializing, even with close friends. Think about it. No water cooler talk, no grabbing lunch, no grabbing coffee. And with this lack of connectivity, we are now seeing big declines in innovation and creativity. Creativity requires 2 things. 1, a deeper level of collaboration than what might be possible on collaborative tools. And number 2, time. Both of these we have been short of, right? We're going to talk today about how do you create that environment that is conducive of innovation, because we have got to move from just doing and task orientation to creating. Why? Innovation is the lifeblood of any company, and we need to bring this back to future-proof our businesses. Number 5, without much surprise, is despite the fact that many people want the old back, I would dare say that this is not going to happen. There's not going to be any return to normal. The only normal going forward is that the future is unknown. You know, today we call this living into a VUCA world. And for those of you that haven't heard of what VUCA stands for, it's an acronym for 4 words: volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. We literally live now in an ocean of motion. And this VUCA world is now demanding a new way of working and a new way of thinking. It's totally unlike the old. So how do we move and lead into this unknown? You know, I love the way Abraham Lincoln said it back in the mid-1800s. The best way to predict your future is to create it, and you can no longer create it on your own. You need to create it with a team. You know, this is really what we do. Linda Martin Results, and the president and CEO of this company, we've been creating teams. We call them A-teams for many years now. A-teams know how to create results while effectively dealing with the unknown. In fact, every single one of our clients, they've had their best year by far. We've worked with teams in office and virtually. I think one thing I'll share with you that makes our work unique is that we teach teams to become aware of not only what to do, but how to drive results together as a team. And our work is based on all sorts of empirical research, more so on the practices, like what do the most effective business teams in the world do? And I dare say that that has been a bit of a mystery up until now. How do they do what they do? When you know this, I can promise you, you literally will have the keys to the kingdom. And you know, one of the most interesting things I've learned about teams and teamwork is that the word teamwork is so overused and so misunderstood. I wanted to share with you, I'm in the process of writing a book right now, and it'll be out just prior to summer of next year. And I'm interviewing some of the top team leaders in the world. And one of the contributors is a coach. She's a coach of the US women's soccer team. And she said something to me that I want to share with you that I will personally never forget. And she said, Linda, most people have never experienced what real teamwork is. We bat this word around like we all have an experience of it. Most people have only experienced group work. But when you experience real teamwork, you never forget it, and you're never the same. So on the next slide, you see I've got a picture of a pie, because it's a bit like a pie. If you look at the piece that's missing, I want you to think about that missing piece of pie. That's what you know, and what you know, you don't know. So I know that's a mouthful. So what am I saying with this? As an example, you might know how effective teams have a common shared goal. But you're probably wondering, something you might not know is, well, how do they create that? But then take a look at the big piece of pie left. This is what you don't know about teams. And what I found is that this piece of pie is where all the answers are. When you start raising your level of awareness, you will achieve the biggest results. As a leader and as a team member, you will feel way more fulfilled and perpetually grow. You know, all leaders that have went down this road have reported less frustration. And believe it or not, they actually work way less hours. And it's because they know how to rally teams. And the win for them is that their existing workload goes down. So I'm not saying they're not doing as much work, but they're freed up to do work that they finally have a chance to do. So I want Now, let's get into the meat of this. What are the top 5 strategies to re-engage your teams post-COVID? Please put any questions you have in the chat box. We're going to try to address as many of these as we can. If we can't, I will promise you I will give you a personal email to help you understand a little bit more about what I was saying if there were any questions. So let's start with strategy 1. And this is one I feel very, very strongly about. We need to process what has happened during this pandemic, because it's only then, when we have open dialogue, that we will become stronger as a result. We truly have to address this to complete it. Now, what I would suggest to you is I would get your team together for about a half day, and I would just shake the crumbs off of COVID. I'd start getting underneath it. I would start asking your team, what happened? Like, what did we do with it? How did we approach it? And most importantly, what can we take out of it? What do we make sense of? And how do we take the good out of it? How do we release the rest of it? We retain what we do not release. So completing this chapter as a team ensures we don't drag the past into the future. This process strengthens a team by going deep, and actually you're helping them create perhaps one of their first shared experiences. I want to talk a little bit about a gentleman named W.C. Scott. Not sure if you're familiar with him, but he was the wealthiest man in the 1970s. He was American, made all his money in the insurance business. And he had a saying, and his saying was, "That's good." And I know it's kind of a strange saying, but he used it all the time. And he used it because there is good in everything that happens, but you have to take a look at it. You have to create the "that's good" mindset for your team. You know, our natural tendency is to recognize what's wrong. It takes a deliberateness to see the good in everything, even in the dark. So why is it so important we look at the good? I'll let you in on a little secret. Our energy flows to where our attention goes. That's why this is so important. Help your team direct their energy to what they want to accomplish, to the good, not the circumstances of the day. I mean, we're not through COVID, right? We're seeing all sorts of other things happen with it, but at some point it will lessen, but another circumstance of the day will come up, right? There's no power in fixating on circumstances, but don't take it just from me. Take it from one of the richest men in the world. Get your team rallied around. That is good. The second strategy I wanted to share with you is the importance of reviving your team's personal identification with the organization's vision and mission. Now, we hear a lot about where a business wants to go and how the business is going to get there. But if you peel a different layer of the onion back, a business at its core is what? It's a collection of people. So a vision and mission can only happen with a deep personal connection to it by the teams of people that give it life, right? Teams give life to the vision and mission of your company. And without that deep connection to the movement, honestly, a vision and mission is just words on a wall or words in a PowerPoint deck. As a leader, your job is to allow each team to bring the vision to life in a way that has meaning to your teams. That is when ideas start flowing, you get buy-in, and accountability shows up. And so I'm suggesting you do this by asking, what does your team want to create? Because that is the power question. of the most effective business teams in the world, right? We've been so busy with just getting through our day during this pandemic that this critical part of engagement is not happening. And I'm asking you to bring it back. So my advice is this: ask your teams clearly, what do you want to create? Help us bring this vision to life. We need you. What is your personal expression of the vision and mission? What would it look like? You know, this strategy, and I've seen it personally, can literally transform your business. I'm working actually with a team right now, and they're in the aerospace industry. They asked themselves this question, and what they created was this, and I want to share this with you, quote unquote: we want to become the most efficient team in the industry, and we want to overachieve EBITDA profit every single year, unquote. And you know what? In the last months that we've worked together, they have overhauled procedures and systems, and they've won new foundational accounts. So you might be asking, okay, kind of tracking with you, but why does this approach work? Well, there's only one thing your team wants to do. This one thing is actually more important than money. It's more important than their title. And I don't know, does anyone know what it is? Want to take a stab at it? Please put it in the chat box if you think you know what it is. Well, the answer is teams, number one, want to grow. All of us want an opportunity to go to that next level. And it's this strategy that gives them the opportunity to do that. The most effective teams in the world have leaders that do one thing very well. They ask people, what do you want? Get out of the habit of telling people what to do. Ask people, what do you want? Because that's going to allow them to grow. And we never grow by being told what to do. My next strategy is a team's success is largely due to its ability to develop the capacity to continually start over, to create again and start again. And you know, for those of you who are a fan, or obviously you're aware of Celine Dion, she is doing her first show in November. She's a resident in Las Vegas, as you might know. And her team of songwriters have created a show, believe it or not, exactly about this topic, about creating again, starting again. And I'm not sure what you know about the songwriter community, but their expertise is to tease out what people are feeling right now, but struggling to put into words. Well, she is one of the best songwriting teams in the world, and that is what this entire show is about. And I can share with you that this is a truth of people on your teams that cannot be ignored, right? I think every single one of us on this call today, we all feel a need to have a fresh start, right? And I wish success was a straight line, but I know it isn't. It's a windy road where we must become experts at learning, unlearning, and relearning. And this really is the currency of success for teams in the 21st century. So this process that I'm talking about, creating and starting again, is really going to be a key skill that is going to take your team to the next level. You know, just a short story. When I did my MBA, and I graduated a long time ago, actually back in 1995, you know, I remember thinking then, oh gosh, wow, that's done. I'm so glad. I'm just looking forward to getting out there and putting all this into practice, right? And only to learn that, you know, like all of us, I was on that windy road, right? And some of that information was immediately usable and a lot of it was not. And actually some of it had to be dropped. And I had to live the learn, unlearn, relearn to get me to where I am today. So one thing I want to share with you is what practices allow a team to do this, right? Like you're saying, start over again, right? Create, solve problems, innovate. Well, my practice and structure for all of you today is this: be in dialogue weekly with your team about creative ideas to capture opportunities and solve problems. So put this practice into place. Weekly meeting, be 30 minutes, 40, doesn't need to be more than an hour. And the reason I'm saying this is creativity is not a linear line. It requires time to develop, time to critically analyze, and time to implement and iterate. Quarterly strategic meetings, that's the way we used to do it. They don't really cut it anymore. You got to be engaged in this a lot more frequently. Practice becomes perfect in this area. My fourth strategy is connecting. We are all at the end of the day pack animals. When we don't feel part of something, when we don't feel that somebody cares about us or cares about our opinion, we don't feel secure. And when we don't feel secure, guess what? We don't step out. We don't come up with creative ideas. We don't innovate. We stay within. We want to be safe. So a client of ours created this weekly structure, which I love, and it's called M&M meetings. And what it really stood for was managers' milestone meetings. So these meetings, again, happen weekly. The frequency is so important. It was a simple, unstructured 30-minute touch base with all your direct reports. And he purely asked 3 simple questions. And I want to share these with you so you can use them in your company. Questions are this: how are you doing? Like, number 1 question, how are you? Number 2, hey, what's going on? Like, what are some of your wins of the week? What's the projects you're working on? And number 3, how do I help you? This leader has a team of 1,500 people, and I can honestly say that they would walk a plank for him. He cares. The number 1 reason people leave a job, never the company, it's simply the boss. And the boss, you don't feel, doesn't care about you as an individual. That is the number 1 reason why people leave. So connect personally. Moving on to number 5. And this next strategy, which really is a bolt-on to my 4th strategy, is supporting the team. So I want to talk about how you do this. In a VUCA world, the team needs this more than ever. Why? Because their day is so unpredictable. They go from this problem, that problem. They're dealing with all sorts of unknowns, from computer problems, customer problems, supplier problems. To help them do that, the best leaders of the 21st century, they do these 3 things very well. Number 1, they listen. Listening is about 1/3 of your job right now. And it's listening to all your stakeholders. It's listening to your team, your customers, your suppliers, right? You get what you want as a leader by a very simple formula. And it's by giving others what they want. All you have to do is stop talking to hear it. I can't tell you how many clients of ours now are just listening to what their customers want. And that's a major strategic initiative so that they can innovate in the company. I'm just going to give you what you want. Number 2, advise. Be the expert that you are to guide your team. And this allows them to think broader about watch-outs, blind spots. You're an advisor. Again, you're not telling them what to do, but you're there to help, guide, and advise. Add value. This is my 3rd point about what you need to be doing as a leader of great teams. Have them be experts at critical thinking by adding value, helping them explore different ways at looking at opportunities or problems. This is another practice of the most effective business teams in the world. They're able to think again about what they're doing and what they're processing. Really effective teams just don't get into that perpetual wheel, gerbil wheel. They have great thinking capabilities, and their boss, their leader, their president, CEO is helping them do that. And that allows them to think proactively about how they would handle potential scenarios of any plan that occurs in front of them. Now, that's an effective team. Can you imagine you're leading a team and everything that they put in front of you has been well thought out, the pros and the cons. And so your job is just to add to it, like advise anything else that you've seen to help guide them down a road to success. So I want to go back to the beginning where I was speaking about the success of your business is directly coming from the success of your teams. Teams are now the #1 strategic priority of the fastest growing companies in the world. And fast growth companies realize that when you rally a team of experts, things get faster and they get better, right? And this is where we may be able to help you. I wanted to share with you the #1 reason why people would come to us. And like you might be at a critical inflection point in your business that requires a major step change. The 4 changes that most companies come to us for is they want to make a dramatic improvement in revenue growth. They have a new strategy, but they're smart enough to realize I need to engage people to make this come to life. Second reason, change in management. It could be you could be just acquired by a new company. There's a new management team in place. There's a new president, new CEO. And this new vision, new management is going to require a big step change from the existing teams. Change in productivity and culture. Many companies say we just got to become more productive. And we think changing culture, which is simply group behavior, is a way to do it. And lastly, some companies come to us because they want to make a change in agility. They want to be able to move more quickly, move on a dime to capture opportunities and solve problems. So how to get results through people? That's really what we do as a company. And I want to, before we get into the questions, which I do want to get to, I want to present to you 5 different ways that you could potentially use us to learn more about the most important topic in business right now, rallying teams post-COVID. #1, I just encourage you to reach out for a conversation, right? Let's just talk about what's going on for you. I love chatting with people about their issues on their business and their teams. So that's an option. #2, I call this Let's Understand. Help us take you through an assessment of your team so that you can see perhaps where some of the problems are. And today I want to offer this up to anyone who has participated on this call or pre-registered. Again, we're sending out the recording if you couldn't make it today. That price is going to be only $9.97 US. I really discounted it down to the bare bones because I want to showcase to you, what this type of work can do when you see what some of the issues could be on your team. So that's the second one. The third one is, a lot of companies are like, Linda, I just want to get started. Let's see what this looks like. So for you, it could be a 1-month focus team program. I could actually come in and lead this session of getting people reignited, realigned around your vision, as an example. #4, if you as a leader are feeling like, you know what, I need to be recentered. I get that you went through a tough time. I personally invite you to our team leadership retreat, which is actually happening in the beautiful area of Blue Mountain at our leadership center. And it will go from October 22nd, 23rd, 24th. And I would love to have you participate in that. And lastly, I offer up our Extraordinary Results Team Program. It's a 6-month program and this is the program I'm referring to when people had the best results ever in their company, this is what they did. For our Canadian customers, I just want to let you know I'm an approved vendor of the Canadian federal government. And what that does is that gives you access to thousands of dollars in grant money to help fund this bigger project. So I call it Let's Do This. Would love to chat with you about what that looks like separately. So next slide, I just want to show our coordinates. So please feel free to reach out to Michael or myself. You can call us by phone or by email. The next 3 days, we've really carved out time to connect. So just send me or Michael an email going, hey, how does 3 o'clock tomorrow work? Just want to chat about the call today and how we might be able to use you or your services, or maybe you just talk to you a little bit more about a specific problem that I'm having. We are totally open to that as well. So I'm going to quit talking and I want to bring Michael back. And I just want to see if there are any questions that I can answer now.
Okay, Linda, there was one question on your strategy number 2, refocusing the mission. Question is basically how do I get people to focus on the mission and agree? Can you expand on how you achieve this?
Yes. It's a little bit like I was saying, is gather people around together as a team. So I'll use an example. Say this was a team of production people. How you do this is get them present to the vision of the company, and really talk through what it is. Right? In your words, like, what does this vision mean to you? How does it excite you as a leader? And then what I want you to do is ask them, what does this team want to do? Like, how can you guys come together and really make this vision happen? And that was exactly the process that we used in that aviation company I was talking about. They got together and they're like, okay, company had a vision. We know how to make this happen. Because what I found, Michael, is that the answers are all inside. As much as you bring different people in, they're brought in to pull the answers from inside and put them on the table. Your teams have the answer. They have the answer to the problem. They have the answer to where you're going. And rally them around to help figure that out. They'll come up with things, honestly, Michael, that will totally shock you. You're like, oh, wow, I've never thought of that, right? And sit back and listen and hear them out. So that's basically how you do that.
Okay, we got time for probably one more. There's a question on strategy number 1. Reflect, talking about tell me more about what the nuances look like. What do I need to watch out for when doing the session?
So I know this may be brand new for a lot of you on this call, but again, knowing how important it is, when you bring people together, I want you to just let them vent. Let them share what their experience was with COVID. And Michael, some people are like, oh, I don't want to go down that road. How do I manage that? Trust the process, that just sharing. And for some, it's been horrific. And others, it's just been like, oh, well, not so bad. But I think this idea of venting, to have people talk about, oh my gosh, and my kids running around in the background and working from sun up to sundown, like, just let them get it out. And what you're doing is guiding people to look at what good came out of this. If you look back in history, some of the greatest inventions came out of the biggest hardship. If you go back to the Depression, innovation soared after that. And I really believe that that is what is going to happen to us as a business community. But the reason I'm suggesting that you do that is let them vent, right? Be comfortable with it. because it releases and allows people to then move forward, right? So never be afraid of letting people vent. They let the steam out. It rolls off them so that they can come together and recreate. Another client I would reference, believe it or not, they set up venting sessions as teams to be able to get all that stuff that they're kind of thinking out of their head to move forward. So they'd have a session. It's like, okay, who had the worst story of the week? And it just became humorous. But what it does is it really binds people together and to go, okay, things will be better next week, so that we don't live in this fantasy that things are not difficult, because they are. But I think when we have that collective experience of, wow, oh gosh, like that was a hard one, but I know that together, if we band together, we can do better. So I hope that helps answer your question.
There's another follow-up to that first question on refocusing on the mission. Cami asks, as our employees are still working from home, how do you address this?
Great question, Cami. It's regardless of whether we're doing it live, like when we lead these sessions, it doesn't matter to me if it's live or on Zoom. I mean, of course, we would prefer live, but I think what you'd probably want to do is, if it is virtual, I would send the agenda out in advance. And I say that because introverts, as you probably know, want a little bit of time to think through why, what do I want to say and why are we going down this road? But I would send the agenda out in advance on Zoom. And Cami, if I were you, I would lead it yourself, just like I did. I would share, what was the hardest part of this, right? And what did I learn from this? Like, you start that as a leader, and then have people go around and say, look, I just want everyone here to talk for 5 to 10 minutes about, what was their hardest part of it? What was their happiest part of it? What did they take out of it? And you're trying to get people to think, first of all, we are here together on the other side of it, right? If nothing else, we got to the other side. And it is really absolutely transformative. And if there's anything that we can do as a company, either help you co-lead it, we could lead it ourselves, or you could lead it with our help. We're all here to help you do that, but do it. It's very, very powerful session.
One more we'll sneak in real quick. Chris asks, is there so much division and negativity in the news and society today? Everyone who disagrees or thinks different is an enemy. How do we get team members to be more positive?
Ooh, great question. And I get that, Chris, a lot. Couple of quick suggestions is, as a leader and participant in a team, because we're always both, right? Like, regardless of what level you're on a team. And if you're higher, you lead teams. If you're a team member or a leader, you have to be that voice of positivity, right? How we do it a lot is we rally people around wins. So the way we operate as human beings is we automatically go to the negative. And you have to be that person that is coming over top. Like I say, W.C. Scott, what's good? What was the win of the day? People will say, Linda, oh, I didn't have a win today. I was like, well, you haven't looked deep enough. There is always a win in every single day. So Michael, just in the interest of time, because I do want to stop on time, one last slide, and in conclusion, as we move out of COVID, my message to all of you is we perpetually are going to live into this VUCA world. We are leaving normal behind. But as human beings, we love normal. Give your teams the tool that they need to grow and excel in an uncertain and overtly negative world, as one of our listeners said. Thank you for your time, and remember, nothing of significance happens alone. And I just want to close with, I really look forward to hearing from you soon. And thank you so much, Michael, for your help with this call as well.